Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Making CLC Stages Come Alive with Music and Art and Videos. Cambridge University Press is happy to welcome Maureen Gassert-Lamb back to present for us tonight. Maureen is the Language Department Chair, Academic Technology Coordinator, and Upper School Classics faculty at Kingswood Oxford School in West Hartford. She is also a Google certified trainer and trains teachers in the Google Suite, Google certification, and applied digital skills. And she's a mom. Maureen is dedicated to using best practices and creating community and language teaching and technology. She's been sharing her work on Latin pedagogy and teaching languages for over 10 years at national, regional, and state conferences. She has been recognized for her work as the CT Language Teacher of the Year, Neckville Mead Fellow, Classical Association of New England Wenke Award, and the American Classical League Elizabeth Watkins Award. Maureen is dedicated to creating an inclusive classroom environment, to using technology to enhance the student experience and to make classics comprehensible to her students. And she brings great enthusiasm to all of that. And apparently, as of today, she's also a bear wrangler, but that's another.
I am. Maybe I'll talk about that at the end.
And I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Ginny. Welcome, everybody. Now, I'm sure over the years, as we've been teaching with Cambridge Latin course, some of you maybe longer than others, we've thought of different ways to make the textbook come alive for our students. And that can be through using music, through using art, through using videos. So at any time during this presentation, if you have something you use, if you have a resource that you want to share, I will be updating this presentation with what people share on the Padlet afterwards. So please feel free to share resources as we go through, or even raise your hand or shout out and let me know. This is all about how we can do it all together. So please feel free to participate. If you want to follow along, if you want to click through at your own pace rather than my pace, please feel free to go to this link, tinyurl.com/CLC media. So feel free to go to that link to take a look. Okay. So here is the Padlet link for sharing. I'll go to this quickly so you can take a look at what this looks like. Oh, it's doing weird things. Okay, just go away. Go away, not right now. Thank you. I'm glad you have a secure connection. Okay, so it's very easy to add something to a Padlet. Here's what you do. You click this button, and let's say I want to share research for stage 1. I'm going to write stage 1 there, and then I can either upload it, I can add a link, I can add a picture, or you can add all these things. So please feel free. Please feel free to do this as we're going through. If there are things that you want to share, please feel free to do so.
So how do we get there? I'm sorry, I was answering a teacher.
Of course. I'll copy the link and add it.
Okay, please.
There's also a link on the presentation itself, but this could be easier.
But I mean, even the tiny, I didn't see the tiny URL.
Oh, of course. No, I'm happy to do that. I believe it's tinyurl.com/CLC media.
Okay.
Okay. So feel free to add something. And if you haven't used Padlet before, it's basically like a big bulletin board, except that it can hold videos, which is really nice. So let's say that for this particular post, I'm going to edit it. And let's say I wanted to add a video to this. What I would do is I might go to YouTube. And because this is about Caecilius, I'll say, ooh, what's there on Caecilius? Let's take a look. And maybe we want to do Caecilius at Stinhorto remix. Or maybe we want to do the reconstruction of the house of Caecilius Jucundus in Pompeii. So if that's what we'd like to do, then we can click that, and that will be added to the Padlet. So if it's something you use, you can add it right from there. I use this with my students for brainstorming all the time. So I figured it would be not only a good place for us to share materials, but a tool that could be helpful for you. Okay, any questions on Padlet? Okay, moving on. Let me make this big again. Oh, it's not letting me go to full screen. Hold on one second. That's okay. Okay. So there are a number of video sharing options. A lot of the things I ended up sharing were videos because, first of all, videos are so seamless if you're using some sort of learning management system. And I find that when I assign videos to my students, they're much more likely to watch them. They love videos, especially short videos. And so I find that they're really, really helpful. So, oh, there's a question. Here we go.
My computer lost the link.
Oh, okay.
It's right up here, Steve. It's at the top. I'll paste it again.
Okay. You know what? Thank you so much, Jenny.
It's what I'm here for.
Appreciate it. Okay. So a place you can find a lot of different things is YouTube. And I'm sure a lot of you spend some time on YouTube looking for resources, and if not, use this because this is where I put all my stuff, which is good. Also, Edpuzzle. Does anyone here use Edpuzzle? Oh, okay. Yeah. So Edpuzzle, if you have an account, you can add questions as students are watching a video, which is really great because then you can make sure they're not just, not watching or paying attention at all. They have to actually answer a question. My daughter is doing Spanish online this year because she's doing remote learning. And oftentimes she'll have to watch a video in Spanish and answer questions as she goes along. And I found that it's a really good way to make sure that students are paying attention as they're watching videos. So Edpuzzle is an option. You can upload your own videos to Edpuzzle if you have a premium account, and you can also do videos directly from YouTube, but they do censor the material. And so another thing you can use where you can upload directly from Vimeo, if that has more videos, it tends to have a lot of the British videos. I'm not sure why, but they go well with CLC. So sometimes I use PlayPosit instead. PlayPosit is very similar to Edpuzzle. It uses some different language for things, but it's the same idea where you can ask questions at certain points of the video that students have to answer before they can continue. And I find that it's very easy to use. So it's something you can use again. And again, you can upload from Vimeo, which is nice. Finally, another place I've been putting videos a lot is GoFormative. Oh, I see a question in the chat. Okay. Yeah. So you might actually be able to use, I don't know if you could use PlayPosit and have the Vimeo video in PlayPosit if PlayPosit's not blocked by your school. It might be an option. Another option is to use GoFormative. Who here uses GoFormative? Oh, okay. I really love GoFormative. I think it's a really wonderful tool because I'm actually giving all of my assessments on it this year because I can give feedback to students as they're taking an assessment, which I think is extremely valuable. But an aspect of it that I really like is that I can add videos to it and have students answer questions on videos. And I think that's a great place because it's nice that they can have the video there and they can answer questions. Something else I'm going to show you about videos and Google Slides. They seem to go really well together. So I'll show you that in just a minute. Any questions about video sharing before we move forward? Okay, awesome. All right, so stage one, Caecilius. And usually I show the bust of Caecilius, of course, and I'll talk about that on the next slide. But another thing I like to show is parts of Life Beneath Mount Vesuvius with Mary Beard. But who here has seen things with Mary Beard before?
Absolutely.
I love her. I think she's fantastic. However, there are times where she might say things like that maybe if you're teaching, especially middle schoolers, it may be uncomfortable to discuss with, or something that might be overtly sexual because it's about something that's sexual in Pompeii. So I'll show you a trick with Google Slides that you can do if you just want to show part of a video. So let's say that I want to show part of this Mary Beard video to my students, but not the whole video. So what I will do is, first I've inserted this video from YouTube. I've put the URL here, and here is my video. Now I'm going to go up to format options. And unfortunately, this works only with videos that you have uploaded from your Google Drive or videos directly from YouTube. I wish it worked for Vimeo videos, but it doesn't yet. Maybe someday. So what you can do is actually choose under these format options, when the video starts and stops. So I found that this is particularly helpful if, let's say, you want students to watch 5 minutes of an hour-long video, especially if you're watching a documentary or something like that. You can pick, okay, I'm going to start this at 30 minutes and I will take it to 45 minutes. And that's the only clip I want students to see. So that can be extremely useful because then your students are only seeing the parts you want them to see. If there are several clips that you want students to see, something I like to do is give students a clip in a Google slide, then have them do some discussion questions, and then watch the next clip. You can take this clip and have it copied multiple times, and then go in and format it so you're only watching little bits. So that can be extremely useful. And if anyone has questions on how to do that, further questions, let me know. I forget what it is, 45 or something like that. Okay. There we go. And this is one of my favorite pictures to show during my first day of class teaching the Cambridge Latin course. Does anyone recognize, oh, now it's loading. Does anyone recognize what this picture is? It does look like Dionysus is wearing a bunch of balloons, I understand. Yes, it's Mount Vesuvius before it erupted. It's one of the only pictures we have of Mount Vesuvius before it erupted. How cool is that? That's awesome, right? I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool. And I love that Dionysus is here, and the idea, see the vines growing behind him, the idea that this is a place where people lived because it had very fertile soil. This is a place where people lived where they could grow grapes really well and lots of things. It was recovered from a wall in Pompeii. Oh, it's Atlantis. Oh, I don't know that one. Could you share that? That would be really cool if you can find it. If not, you could share it on the Padlet. But I just think it's such a cool thing because you can show students that this is what Vesuvius would have looked like when our friend Caecilius was living in Pompeii. And it would have overshadowed everything. Even today, if you get the opportunity to go down to Pompeii and you're riding on that train from Rome, Vesuvius is massive. It dominates the countryside. It's really quite spectacular to see. And so the idea that this is something that was overshadowing everything is really cool. Oh, I don't want to play that. No, don't play right now. Thank you. Okay. There's something else I like to talk. Oh, let's see. In the chat. Yes, I imagine it's monstrous in the sea. Yes. It's really something. I also like to share portraits from Pompeii. I like the idea that students can see what the ancient Romans looked like, and they can see what the people of Pompeii looked like. And these are just a few of the portraits of people in Pompeii. I'm particularly fond of these two on the left because I like the idea that women were writing in Pompeii. And there's recently been some work done on the graffiti from Pompeii that's written by women that they found, and also some work done on the idea that if they had this type of writing, it makes more sense if more of the population could read at least somewhat, if graffiti was the way people were communicating. So there's some really interesting work going on right now around this that I talk to my students about. And so there are another couple of pictures of people who are women using styluses, but I just think it's a really cool thing. It's also cool for students to see what people might have looked like. I think sometimes that can be hard to capture with the bust of Caecilius because it's a bronze bust. So it's nice to see something like this where they can see mosaics. And so I just think it's really cool to talk about from day one, who are the Romans? That's another reason why I like to show a Mary Beard documentary, at least the Pompeii one in part, because I think she does a really good job of talking about who the Romans were and how they lived. Because I think that's something that's overarching in book one of the Cambridge Latin course. Who are the Romans? Next, the Roman villa. Who recognizes some of these? Who loves Magisterkraft?
Oh, they're good. They're so
They're
good.
so much fun. My students absolutely love them. And at this stage, when I'm teaching stage 2, what I'll do is I'll show this and I'll also turn on the Latin subtitles. Not all of his videos have Latin subtitles, but these do, which is really, really helpful for my younger Latin learners. I think being able to listen to a language as well as read it at the same time is a great way to create that comprehensible input for students right away. It's Dius Magisterkraft. Let me put the link. Let's see. Let me see if I do this. I can search for the link in my thing with the Padlet. Okay. Can you see my whole screen or just the tab?
Say that again.
Can you see my whole screen or just the tab?
No, we can see your whole screen.
Okay. So Magisterkraft. Can you see me searching for Magisterkraft?
No.
Oh, okay. I'll just put the link for the channel in there then. Okay, here you go.
I can look for it too, because there.
Yeah, oh no, it's in there, it's good.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So that is his channel. He has a ton of stuff in there. It's wonderful. He's coming out with a new thing actually that's going to be an online Minecraft ancient Rome kind of game, which sounds really cool if you have something like that, like a Minecraft server for school. I wish we did. So Domus Romana, but I also like to show Insula Romana because I think it's really important when we're teaching students about the Roman villa to also be mindful of the fact that a lot of Romans also lived in insulae and talk about what life in an insula would be like as well. So really being mindful of all when we're talking about who are the Romans, talking about all Romans. And so while the Roman, knowing the different rooms of the Roman house are really important, and knowing that, also talking about what life in the insula was like. So that can be really important. And these are really cool reconstructions of the house of Caecilius. So that's really neat to take a look at. Oh no. Every time I click, it's, nope. Oh, okay, there we go. No, we won't. We're gonna go to the next thing. Oh, so one of the cool things that I think Cambridge Latin course does is when they go through the different negotium, what the different business things are. I love this video of what's in my purse or what's in my wallet. And so it's really nice because it goes through these little prepositions. It's very fun. It's very silly. And it's really talking about, because students are just getting used to that. And so it's just a fun, silly video. I'll show you a minute.
Yeah, please do.
Can you hear it at all?
No, no.
Okay, hold on. Let me change the settings for a second.
Yeah.
I am going
to hear the music before, so.
Okay, so I am going to share my sound then. Here we go. Let's see if you can hear it from before. Oh yeah, the music went on before.
Salvete plurimum, nomen mihi est Magisterkraft. Et hodie discetis quid sit in sacco meo. Spectate, saccum meum.
Ooh.
Okay, videamus. Primum in sacco meo est Gladius. Gladius est magnus. Gladio possum interficere Gallos, vel Germanos.
Oh no.
Tum in sacco meo est Dolabra.
And if you know Minecraft, you know that's one of the weapons on Minecraft, or one of the building tools actually. So he's going to go through a bunch of different things, and it's just really cool to see, and it's very comprehensible to students. And when I'm trying to show when I'm watching with students, I do exactly what I was saying, like, oh no, and things like that, and big overreactions, because I think it really helps students engage with what we're doing. And so again, it's super fun to use a video. And what I like to do is use a video like this to start out class and just have students come in, we watch a video, then we talk about it, or have questions. And I love to do things like Gimkit or Blookit with little questions afterwards, just to really engage them. So it can be really fun. Oh, there it goes again.
Salvete plurimo.
Yes, thank you. All right, so this one is about the Roman Forum. I know that in the book we talk about the Forum in Pompeii, and I often show pictures too of the Forum in Pompeii. But this is a really cool video again of this, and I'll show you. It's amazing how much he's built in his world of Minecraft.
Salvete plurimum, nomen mihi est Magister Craft. Hodie vobis forum.
Look, there's even look at that. That's awesome. There's graffiti.
Romanum aetate Augusti ostendo. Quid est forum? Forum est spatium apertum. In foro potes emmere, vendere, versari apud amicos.
Oh, and like I said before, if it's available, it's really helpful, especially for my younger students, to have these Latin subtitles as we're watching.
Loqui de Rei Publica, vel, sacrificium facere. Itaque in foro semper multi homines aderant. Primum, vobis aedificia fori Romani ostendo. Hic est aedificium maximi momenti Romanis.
So what I like to do with a video like this is to show it to my students and then have them compare pictures of the Forum in Pompeii to the Forum in Rome and talk about what the uses of the Forum is and what are the things that might happen in the Forum and what they think might be the similarities and differences between the Forum in Rome and the Forum in Pompeii. So it makes for a really good conversation with students. Oops, and it's doing it again. Oh.
And Maureen, you can also revisit that when you're in the Forum in Rome. In
Exactly.
2930, and then
Yeah.
back and say, and look how many fora they had, and all the cool stuff that happened in Rome.
Absolutely. And there's also a wonderful Magister Craft video on the theater, but I love to start out with this. Oh,
work your style without
there is an
overworking your hair.
advertisement.
For salon quality hair at home, Tresemme Keratin Repair with Bondplex technology builds new hair bonds with every wash. Get 20 times stronger hair with new Tresemme Keratin Repair.
Who recognizes this?
Something peculiar, something for everyone, a comedy tonight. Something appealing, something appalling, something for everyone, a comedy tonight. Nothing for kings, nothing for crowns. Bring on the lovers, liars, and clowns. Old situations, new complications. Nothing portentous or polite. Tragedy tomorrow, comedy tonight.
I love this because just from watching the opening scene, you can go through and talk about so many different tropes of Roman comedy. You can talk about what Sulus's role is. And also, I love that it portrays Rome as kind of dirty and and not pristine at all. I think the idea that it's humans interacting with humans in ways that are silly and funny and over the top. And I think having students see this and not pristine white marble Rome, which they might see in other movies, is really important. And it's a great contrast.
So can I just add one thing? I often showed this movie. It was one of the few movies I showed because it always fell at the end of our first quarter about that time, and we had teacher days that we were going to be off for. But what was good about it is then when you get to stage 6 and you do the story Pugna, and the story of Pugna shows all the people all working in the Forum, and then you have the punch, subito, and then the punch. I would show this part again after and say, and the kids were like, oh, this makes so much sense because these things were happening concurrently, but in the past, and then suddenly something happened. So it's a good setup, either in 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so fun. Now, Felix is a story. Who remembers what the Felix story is?
The guy that got out of the job, got out of being a slave.
Right, because there was a thief, and the story of the thief. And my students love stories. So I actually play Pliny's ghost story because it's a pretty novice level story, I think. And there's so many fun teaching materials with it. And I usually get to stage 6. Well, no, it's not Halloween, but it's just kind of fun. Usually when they need a little break. And so it's wonderful to kind of do the adapted version of Pliny's ghost story with students. And if you haven't seen this, it's super fun. We'll watch a minute or two, or just a little bit. See the ghost floating around there.
Erat Athenis, magna et spatiosa domus. Multi homines domum timebant. Homines in illa domo per totam noctem strepitus audiebant. Tum apparebat idolon, senex et horribilis. Idolon omnes homines terrebat. Ergo, nemo in illa domo habitare volebat.
And I would say the other thing I do with my students, which is not music or film or something like that, is usually during this stage, I teach them to play Werewolf, the mafia game. So I don't know if you've played that, but we play it, what do I call it with them? Oh, there's a special name, I can't, Werewolf. And so we even played it last spring on Zoom. We had a Zoom version of Werewolf. So it's super fun. So the link is actually under the YouTube video. So if you click on YouTube, you'll see that the links to the story are published underneath. That's a great question.
I'm sure people are going to want an explanation of your werewolf game too.
Oh, sorry. No, I just got a little derailed there. Sorry. Yeah, so what I do is I have 2 werewolves, and they're the Werewolf, or I play, they're Lycanthropoi in Greek. But I play it with my Greek class too. And so then I have the Kiwis, the citizens. And so what happens is I choose 2 werewolves. And when we're all in person in the classroom and we can touch each other, they pick out of a hat their names. But when we can't, they all go on Zoom and I private chat what they are on Zoom.
Oh, wow.
And then they have to all turn their cameras on and close their eyes. And I check to make sure all of their eyes are closed. And then I say, where's the palace? Apere de oculos. And the 2 who are werewolves get to open their eyes and they get to pick someone to nicare. And so they pick someone, and it's random and silly, but they have to send me a private message. Then we have 1 doctor, medicae. And so the doctor is able to save 1 person, and they can only save themselves once, because we've had that issue. And so then I say, apere de oculos omnes, and we all open our eyes. And then I say, oh, Maria est mortua. Quis vult necare Mariam? And then they all try to guess who did it. And they have to come up with reasons in Latin. And so they have to think of their reasoning in advance. And then they all vote on someone, tollete manus, si putas brutum necare Maria. But anyway, so then we pick a killer, and if it's the wrong person, we keep going. And if the werewolves never get chosen, they win. I'm happy to write this out or talk through it a little better later on. But it's so much fun, and the students really engage with it. And it goes with the whole like haunted thing, having a werewolf. So it's super fun. I did 7 summers of teaching theater, so I got that game from my theater background, but the kids love it. So have you ever seen, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think, I've always believed no matter what you're doing, the more actively you can involve your students in every activity. One of my beefs with vocabulary is people say, how do you get kids to memorize it? Use it, use it, use it.
Absolutely.
And your idea of being so excited and getting them so into it, they can't not keep up because you've got them sucked in.
Exactly. The more you use it, the better. Absolutely. Who here has seen Horrible Histories before?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I'm answering it.
Okay. So this is a little clip from Horrible Histories.
Well, tonight I thought I'd just do something really easy. It's easy because I'm not making it, my slaves are. What are you cooking?
Well, I'm going to do camel's feet with a scooped out flamingo brain and some nice stuffed snails. Then we've got the sow's udders, got the jellyfish. I'm going to do a dormouse, which is rolled in seed. And I've got the jackdaws, I've got horse meat sausages, and rotten fish guts, and of course peas with little nuggets of gold.
That sounds like a really nice starter. What's the main?
Agricola is the first to arrive, and there's a shot.
So it's just silly, and it's about cooking a big dinner, and so that's why it's fun and silly to introduce here. There's also a great channel. Who's seen the Kokwamus channel?
I haven't.
So these are people who are cooking in Latin. It's so much fun. I like to do a cooking project with my Latin 1 students where we do modified recipes of Piccius, and we talk about them. And back before COVID, we would actually make them and bring them in. But we did not obviously get to do that this year. But this was a really fun channel to have everyone watch a cooking show in Latin. And so to learn that cooking language. So it's super fun. If you haven't seen it, I think my students really enjoy watching them. It's called Kokwamus, and it's a channel on YouTube. There's a link here. If you click this in the presentation, it will take you right there. I can actually go to it right now to show you.
Yeah, why don't you a second?
Yeah, it's fun. All right, let's pick a video. Whoa, something's making a lot of noise. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's making that noise.
What noise?
Oh, I was hearing a really weird noise instead of the Kokwamus channel.
Oh, we could hear the music.
That's all I could hear too, but I was trying to play the Kokwamus video. Ah, that's why. Okay, here we go.
Tres panes.
Okay, he's gonna make grilled cheese sandwiches in Latin.
Hodiem Kokwamus. Prandium, pars ultra, panis concasio fartus.
Panis fartus, nunc est parandus, et hodie prandium meae familiae paro ergo, tres panes fartos parabo, et hodie panis fartus cum caseo est, ergo filia mea vult panem fartem simplicem. Panis Caseus, panis, paratus est ad coquendum, bene, est filiae. Uxori meae, vult in pane farto, ius maioense, ergo ius maioense ilino.
So it continues like that, and it's a bunch of different recipes, and it's just really fun, and it's fun for students to watch it. And again, that vocabulary repetition. So it's fun. They can see someone doing something in Latin and giving directions in Latin. And so it's just fun. I would highly recommend watching.
Well, tonight I thought I'd just do something.
There we go. Next, there are so many things you can do with gladiators. And here is a really cool mosaic that I like to show. Does anyone know this mosaic? Oh, I keep clicking the wrong thing.
I'm sorry, I wrote that. I meant to write Facebook and I put YFB. That's just Facebook.
Does anyone know what this depicts here? Ooh, we have some answers. Oh, okay. So this is the famous fight after the gladiator fight between the Pompeians and the Nucerians. And you can see people just fighting outside the arena. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so it's really cool to talk about how people really got into these games. I tell them, I'm living in Connecticut. So for us, one of the big, we're like, if you cut Connecticut in a diagonal, you'd have the line of Red Sox and Yankees fans. And Hartford's pretty much in the middle of that diagonal. So I say, okay, you think Pompeii and Nuceria? Think Yankees versus Red Sox. It's that kind of rivalry. Like, think people flipping cars when they don't win and stuff like that. Not that they should, but that's exactly what's going on. It's a sports rivalry. Everyone wants their team to win. And so that's how I describe it. And it's something that I think is extremely relatable.
That's me, sorry.
Oh, no worries. It's something very relatable for students who like that. Oh, for hockey? Margaret Ann, what's your hockey teams? Oh, I'm just wondering where you're from. That's so cool. Is that Canadian hockey? I love this too at the, oh, let's see. Yeah. Oh, okay. My dad was a Cubs fan, so I understand that. Okay, so this other mosaic I love because it has the names of the gladiators on it. And it's so cool to think about that too. Oh, hello, kitty cat. Because I think it's really interesting for students to see, yes, they have names, and to see what the different kinds of gladiators are, and to see that they all didn't look alike. And nor do they look like the depictions on that show Spartacus all the time. They actually have clothes on at some point, and armor and things like that. So it's important for them to know that. There's another Magister Craft video too about this. And then there's this Smithsonian video that's really cool about this.
Thanks to the celebrated poet Marshall, who witnessed the games, we know that the two gladiators who fought one another were called Verus and Priscus. Now, these two would have been well known to the crowd, celebrities in their own right, a bit like when Muhammad Ali met Joe Frazier in Manila.
Although the fight between two champions would have been a big draw, there was another key reason to attend this spectacular first day of the Games. At the Colosseum, there was also the rare chance for the crowd to let their emperor know what they thought of him. Here, they could cheer and applaud, or howl, or just stay quiet. A kind of oral opinion poll.
It's pretty cool. And I like to teach my students about the thumbs up, thumbs down. And I've lately learned that perhaps it's apocryphal, that this means death and this means put your sword down. Absolutely. So death and put sword down. But I like to teach them that. So, I often also during this part read Lance P's Rufus ad Arma Atra as a novella in class. Rufus and the Dark Weapons, and it's a little mystery novel about a boy who loves gladiators, and then he has to go searching all over Rome to find the weapons of this gladiator. And I find that's a really, if you're reading novellas at the class, that works out really well around this stage. It's really fun. Here's another video I've linked here that's not available on YouTube called Rome's Arena of Death. This is another one I've used. Again, I don't use all of these videos, but I use parts of them with my classes. So that can be really, really useful. Now, my students love learning about the Roman baths. And we talk a lot about it. And so for this one, I used the Roman baths video from, again, Magister Craft, and also this Dirty Rome video about how dirty the city of Rome would have been. And again, they have a little bit of a sense of this after watching a funny thing happened on the way to the forum, but it's nice to give them a little more of a sense of, yes, this was in fact a dirty city, and it was important for people to have good hygiene and go to the baths. And then talk a little bit about why the water wasn't exactly changed that often and things like that. So I think it can be really fun to talk about those things with students and talk about the difference between bathing now, where many of us are lucky enough to have bathrooms to ourselves, and where in ancient times you'd go to the public baths, and talk about what that experience might have been like, and talking about washing. My students are always fascinated by the idea that they would put olive oil on themselves and use a strigil to get it off. And it's so different for them. And I say, well, for them, it's exfoliating. It's like they're scrubbing themselves. It's very similar to what we do. And so it's interesting to have those conversations and talk about it. We may not be scrubbing with olive oil, but.
Can I say, if you have any students that have horses or ever go to horse farms, they actually have a strigil that they use on the horses. Because I had one girl come flying in with one day. I have a strigil.
That's great. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, because I still have it somewhere. Just a piece of metal, just curved like you see in the magazines or the books,
That's awesome. Oh yeah, speaking of books, a great book series if you have students who are eager for some historical fiction as you're reading the Cambridge Latin course. Have you ever read Roman Mysteries by Carolyn Lawrence?
Yes.
Those are so fun, and I recommend them heartily to students as they're reading the Cambridge Latin course if they're looking for a little more. And I'd say they're very age appropriate for students middle school and up. So those can be really fun too, to supplement students. Yeah, I really love them. They're so much fun and so informative. So who has seen these TED Ed videos before? I really like these. The first one I saw was Four Sisters in Ancient Rome. So I'll show you a few minutes of this.
Today, we are going to look at the world of Rome through the eyes of a young girl. Here she is, drawing a picture of herself in the atrium of her father's enormous house. Her name is Domitia, and she is just 5 years old. She has an older brother who is 14, Lucius Domitius Ahenobarbus, named after her dad. Girls don't get these long names that boys have. What is worse is that Dad insists on calling all his daughters Domitia.
Domitia!
Let's call the Domitia, drawing on the column, Domitia 3. She has an older sister, Domitia 2, who is 7 years old, and then there is Domitia 1, who is 10. There would have been a Domitia 4, but Mum died trying to give birth to her 3 years ago. Confused? The Romans were too. They could work out ancestry through the male line with the nice tripartite names such as Lucius Domitius Ahenobarbus. But they got in a real mess over which Domitia was married to whom and was either the great aunt or the great stepmother and so on to whom when they came to write it down. Domitia 3 is not just drawing on the pillar, she is also watching the action. You see, it's early and the time of day when all her dad's clients and friends come to see him at home to pay their respects.
These are super fun videos, and they do a lot of things. The Roman naming convention is really interesting to talk about. I often ask my students, like, quis est primus? I say they can be their numbers for the day, or primusa and just give them whatever option they want to do. There's also ancient life, a glimpse of teenage life in ancient Rome. And this is how they did it growing up in ancient Rome. And these are all great videos to use to talk about the lives of kids in ancient Rome. And it's so interesting. I recently read an article about how they can figure out that some of the graffiti in Pompeii is from children because of the level it's written at. And so that's something I was talking to my students about just the other day, is how do we know about children that lived in Pompeii? And we really only know about it from their artifacts and from what they've left behind as stick figures, squigglies, things that children draw. And so it's pretty interesting. The next is talking about Roman elections. And this is where I love to talk about graffiti with my students. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. I even let them use my whiteboard as a graffiti board with certain parameters where they can write things because it's very freeing. This year I actually used a Jamboard and it worked out pretty well. So that was fun, where students were just sharing things. And a lot of them shared GIFs, which was so interesting. I'm like, okay, this is kind of like ancient social media sharing a GIF, sharing something like that. Oh, I just saw someone add something in the chat, sorry.
This is really cool. Margaret Ann says there's fantastic children's graffiti or child graffiti in the Crypto Portico in Pompeii.
So cool.
That's very
cool. It's really neat, yeah. And I love that that's a record that we have of the children. It's so cool. So for this one, I have some videos here about Roman elections and talking about that, but also talking about graffiti. And this is also a place where I get to introduce graffiti by women, because there are women who are endorsing certain candidates for whatever position in Pompeii. And so it's really interesting to see that. And also talking about how people say, we really like this person, or we really don't like this person, perhaps using stronger language than that. And so it makes it really interesting. Now, I know that I won't have time to necessarily go through all of the stages, but I will share this so that you make sure that you have access to this even after the fact with all the videos. But I'd love to talk about a couple things. Oh, so Bastile's video and song Pompeii. Has anyone listened to this with their classes? You've probably heard it on the radio. There is a Latin version of this too that I like to show my students after this. I just think it's so cool that it's not as new as it used to be, but a relatively new pop song that is about Pompeii. And when they listen to it and think about the words, thinking about how he's talking about how things are lost, but then when you close your eyes, you can think about what life was like. And here we're talking about what life was like in Pompeii and how the remains of Pompeii really give us a sense of what life was like. I also love watching Pompeii the Last Day. Has anyone watched that with their students?
Yes, I always do.
And not just because it has Mr. Carson from Downton Abbey, which they love. I also like to watch the eruption of Mount St. Helens, because I feel like that really helps students get a sense of what the eruption was like, more so than all the computer generated versions. So it's really, I get very strong reactions from students watching it. And then I'd say, guess what? The eruption of Vesuvius is bigger than that. And they're like, whoa, it's crazy. And so it really blows the mind a bit.
2,000 years
in a
ago.
place of understanding that it's not something you could outrun or hold your breath. And
right.
It's like, what was your last day like? If you imagine you had a last day, and some kid every year would say, I just ran like anything for the hills. And I'm like, that way, you know?
Yes, when Kit Harington tries to outrun Vesuvius in a chariot in the silly movie Pompeii, that actually would not happen. I remember laughing out loud in the movie theater when I went to see that with my husband because it was so ridiculous.
And I even showed them some stuff of Hawaiian eruptions, which tend to be more lava flows.
Right.
Just to say to them, you know, there's many layers to this whole thing. It's not, you know, you're not going to tiptoe through this.
Right. You can't outrun the lava flow. You know, not easily.
When we look at statues, they'd be fascinated by, well, why was someone like this? Didn't they try to move? And you're trying to explain all those different layers of what was happening to them. Margaret Ann has something else wonderful to add.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
That's a good BBC.
Oh, yes. Please add all these wonderful ideas to the Padlet. And I'm I'm going to share, Ginny, if you save the chat, I can add everything people are suggesting as well. Okay. You can send me the chat afterwards. I'm happy to add all of these to this. And so then we have Roman Britain, and I actually like to do a couple of gravestones from Roman Britain too, to show that there were people from all over the empire in Britain. But this is a lovely video by the English Heritage about what did the Romans ever do for us? How did the Romans change Britain?
Yeah.
So that's fun.
It's really Monty Python, yes.
I love what did the Romans ever do for us? Oh, Romanes eo domum. Oh, those are so silly. Oh, yes, that's true. Iceland has a live eruption right now. That is so true. I didn't think of that. That's awesome. It's very fun to watch. I don't think it's a pyroclastic eruption, but it's still pretty cool. And so up at Solium, I have a video that I show students about a Roman villa. So it goes through and it talks about the archaeological site of the Roman villa and goes through that. Now, I know I only have 5 minutes left, so let me I think what I'm going to do is just kind of, let's see, I don't want to do that. I want to, yes, I know.
If there's stuff in other parts of the course that you can reference, I think people would appreciate that.
Of course. So this is Fishbourne Palace. I know you know a lot of that. We have a boat race in Aula. In Alexandria, there's a very cool Magister Crafts about Alexandria. When I do Alexandria, I also do a very cool 7 Wonders of the World project with my students, where they have to talk about traveling. And there's this wonderful University of Michigan website called Orbis, where students can enter in Rome and then enter in the place where they're going. And they could see how long it would take to travel there, what provisions they would need, and things like that. And so what I do is I have students say that they're going to travel to these wonders from Rome and make a travel brochure or commercial about traveling to those wonders. So that's super fun, and students always really enjoy that project. We do something on glass blowing for Eutychus and Clemens. Yeah, so it's really fun. Let's see.
O-R-B-I or Orbis?
I think it's Orbis.
Orbis, that's what I thought. Okay, but I didn't think I heard you say that. It's that, right?
Sorry. Let me check. Yes, and I'm happy. You know what I'll do after this? I'll add that to the list of things from the Padlet in the chat. And I'll go ahead a little bit. So for Isis, I show the fresco of Isis from Pompeii, from the temple, but I also talk about this cool myth. It's a TED Talk again of Egyptian Isis, and talk a little bit about that. For Medicus, talk a little bit about Galen.
So Marlene, as you're pushing forward, do you do most of these with the kids in class, or some of these flipped classroom type stuff? What do you do?
Some of them are homework, and some of them I will do an ed puzzle or a play pause it and have students watch it and answer questions so they do it. But I also love doing it to open class. I think it can be really fun, or something at the end of class to get student attention, especially if I have the class right before lunch and they're all clamoring to go.
So. It wraps it up sometimes. It just says, and if you thought about something boring, here it is,
Yeah, and this one was great because I had a question from students is, can I drink the waters in Roman bath? You really shouldn't. And so there were some questions that were answered that was really fun, talking about bath and what it would look like now, what the water would feel like if someone dips their hand in the water and says, oh, it's hot. And so it's nice because it really gives students that kind of sensory perception of what's going on here. So I think
there used to be an old video from the series This Old House where they went to the baths, and of course the guy who was the plumber was talking to the historian, and he asked all those kind of questions.
Oh, sure. Oh, that's great. I'm gonna look for that one.
He's at the place. I'm like, yeah, they're fascinated by the piping being that good for that log. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You don't see it,
That's so funny. I'm gonna look around for that. My students love This Old House.
Who doesn't?
It's awesome. So I do curse tablets with my students where we read them, and we also we have written them in the past, but I have had students say it's not really what they want to do. So I've also had them do blessing tablets if they wanted to do that as well. So that's been cool. But we also like to watch, this is about a magic ring. And so talking about the idea of magic and, oh, it's Stanford. I thought it was Michigan. Thank you, Mary. But yeah, I think thinking about the idea of magic and superstition, I love to tell them the story about Tolkien, who actually found a ring, or had a ring that they found when he was studying. And then they found the curse tablet associated with the ring that the person lost. So it's so cool that we have those two bits from the ancient world still in Britain. There's a ring someone lost, and then someone wrote a curse tablet about the ring that they lost. So it's kind of fun. And that's what he based the ring of oh my gosh, the ring of Gollum on.
How cool
One
is that?
ring to rule them all. Yes. Horospecs. Horospices are something that students don't know a lot about, so it's really interesting to talk about it. And Roman broads and fuga. We just read fuga in my Latin 2 class. The students are cracking up. They absolutely love this one. And so we did talk about Roman roads and what they looked like, and use the Magister Craft video as we did it. I love doing cartoons with the first story in there. It's so fun. For Militates, we have this little TED-Ed life of the Roman soldier, and I know we're running out of time, so I can skip ahead a little bit here. Let me see. For Agricola, there's, oh, I love this video. It's so easy to understand the Roman army structure. I don't think I understood it before I watched that video, so it's really helpful. Also talking about the Roman camp. Talking about wills and the role of the Vestal virgins in wills has been really interesting with students, because we're talking about the will of Cogidubnus and then talking about Roman wills. And so that was really cool. That's a cool tie-in. And Masada, I'll exit so you can see the more of the slides here, but talking about the Arch of Titus and the siege of Masada is really interesting to students, because some of them have never heard of it. And I had one student who knew so much about Masada, and it was really cool to have those conversations and talk about what was going on in Jerusalem and really what the Arch of Titus symbolized, which was this idea of subjugating peoples and why talk about the issues behind it. And so it's a really interesting conversation. So right now I'm just gonna, okay, I'm trying to get out of here. Trying to exit full screen. I don't know why it's not letting me do this. I keep pressing escape and it's not doing anything. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, I have stuff for Haterius about the triumph and the arch, 7 hills of Rome. So there are a lot of different things in here. For Recitatio, we have some Latin poetry recitals, some a little tour of Horace's villa for the idea of the countryside, the history of marriage, which is really interesting to talk about. For Studia, talking about Pyramus and Thisbe and Daphne and Apollo. Murder in Rome, probably my students' favorite video they watch all year. So if you haven't seen it, it's so funny. And I would say for weeks after, my students say, oh, cui bono, because it has that cui bono, who benefits in there. And that's something, it's about the first trial of Cicero. And it's so well done. Here I have, it's a time watch video about the pro rascio. And yeah, they're just there. I put a bunch of videos in here. I know it's 8:03 here, so feel free to look through, see what works for you. If you have questions about any of these, feel free to let me know. If you have more resources you want to share on the Padlet, please do so. I'm happy to do that. If you shared resources in the chat, I will also, oh, thank you for sharing. If you have resources that you shared in the chat, I will gladly put them on here as well. Yes, of course, here. So the link to this is tinyurl.com/clcmedia.